What's up? It's your boy Carcino here. I hope you guys can hear me because this is a more serious approach. This was brought to my attention yesterday, and I felt that this needed to be addressed more than anything appropriately that has been said and put to the test, or some things are not really being attributed in the right form that it should be. This is one of those that needed to be out there. You know, as notifications have just went out now, it's been 30 something seconds later, but we need to speak on this issue. Don't forget to hit the like button, good people coming through the door. We appreciate your time and your support. Here is moving rather slow. I don't know what they're doing here, but we're having a lot of pushback. Now, the first thing we heard was the movie Sinners was not culturally done. Or no, it was a great film, but it wasn't going to make any money back. $60 million for an original film opening is a bad thing. Now that, it's cost $90 million. Then it comes out and does $45 million the next week and shut that up. So now they need a new angle. So what they did was now put out this Where the Hispanics. Now, if you haven't seen the film, I recommend you see the film so you would understand exactly where we're coming from when we're talking about this film. It's definitely a movie you need to watch. Now, here's the crazy part. What happens is the Latinos are complaining that they weren't represented in the film because they're not there in the film. And that this Asian couple was in the film, but there was no Latinos in the film. Now, they did the same thing with Kendrick Lamar, saying, why in the pop-out wasn't no Latinos involved? We need to see more Latinos. It's funny to me that when y'all do y'all Cinco de Mayo, this is happening this week. I don't see y'all going out and saying, hey, black folks, why y'all ain't kicking in and doing Cinco de Mayo with us? When black folks are doing Kwanzaa, I don't see you saying, hey, we want a Kwanzaa with you, baby. Y'all are nowhere to be found. But I also don't see y'all marching to them pink folks saying, pink man, why can't I get down, baby? When y'all got your whole Spanish network, y'all got Telemundo. When y'all doing novellas, you ain't hear no brothers saying, hey, man, where the brothers at on novellas, man? I'm watching novellas, man, and I know his brothers all through there, smashing them lightning chains. Black folks make a movie, we got to include the whole world in the movie. We can't have a movie that's by ourselves for us. We can't. We got to include everybody. Why we got a black dog? Where the white dog at? We saw a black dog in there. We know it's a black movie, but man, a black dog, you got a brown dog. Where the white dogs at? It was white dogs in 1930. They gonna come up with anything they can just to expose their interracism. Now, because of From Dusk to Dawn, right? And they said, where were the blacks in Selena? Right. So we had the right to be upset. We have the right to be frustrated. We have the right to be angry about that because their anger is misplaced, but it's politically being done. Well, you should get back on if it knocked you off. Now, this man is going to speak, and his own Latinos are going to take him down. See, Latinos ain't the one that's tripping, really. You see, I'm going to explain what's really happening here. Now, let's listen to this.
Ryan Coogler needs to firmly address that he was inspired by a Latin American vampire movie because we are owed our flowers. Also, Ryan, I saw that tamale story you put in the movie. Where's the fucking Latino extras? Come on, Ryan, you're so good at putting Latinos in your movie. What the fuck happened here? You don't put Latinos in the movie, and you steal from the biggest Latino vampire movie?
Hey, Latinos, come here. Come here for a second, especially if you have my complexion. Come here for a second. This is what we're not going to do.
There's a fellow Latino on here that just doesn't seem to understand that the movie The Sinners is not about us.
Ever since the movie Sinners was released, there have been different.
Now, see, other Latinos has come out to express that Latino man that's talking. It wasn't about them. Mm-hmm. It was not about them. Mm. Right. Because it's so much red tape. Mm-hmm. But let me show you something. This black man, Ryan Coogler, said, "Thank you. Speak the truth. Here in New York, streets are overrun with fruit stands, but we buy from them. It's $5 for a pineapple. When they own buys it, they speak Spanish and charge $3. See? But it was a black man who chose a Mexican man, a true Mexican man who they had never seen in America. Disney didn't choose him. Marvel didn't choose this man. He decided to do this story about Namor and make him traditionally not a regular Mexican, somebody who comes from the Aztec culture of what their true culture is, not somebody who was conquered by the Spanish. For the first time ever in your existence, Mexican men, you had a representation of your true identity. You didn't speak Spanish. So he didn't speak Spanish. They spoke their original dialect. No, he didn't screw it up. He made it better. He made it make sense. Namor's story now is complete. They were conquered by the Spanish and they were forced. The people on the land was enslaved and forced by Maximilian and his invaders of Spain. You have to learn world history to really have these conversations. See, Cinco de Mayo, and it just so happens that Cinco de Mayo is happening right now. So this is right on time. See, God works in mysterious ways. So now, Cinco de Mayo means they won a little battle. The farmers got together and they put up a battle that went down and they won. Because Maximilian thought they were so weak and these farmers, I didn't need to send as many ships as I needed to. They planned and they strategized and they won and fought for their independence and won. But Maximilian came back. Maximilian sent an armada to Mexico and enslaved the entire place. That's why they all speak Spanish now. Anything from the Mitecs, Aztecs were crushed, destroyed. Their culture, their religion was gone. Maximilian did that. So, when this black man did that for you, that means none of your Mexican men ever did it. He gave you your dignity back. You turn around and do that to him and attack a movie that he made that didn't involve you. You see what I'm saying? You see? You see what I'm saying? And it's not, and here's what we're going to end the confusion right here. It's not Mexicans that are doing this. As you heard that Mexican lady speak, this is not about Latinos are speaking out because it's not about them. They're not them. They're not the ones that's putting up this. You know who these people are? These are the parents that have a white daddy and a Mexican mama. Those white Mexicans. They're doing that. The guy that was talking, that's who he is. He's one of those white Mexicans. Where my mama is Mexican and my daddy is white, which makes me Mexican. So I can have this whole thought pattern and go out and speak for all Mexicans. Right? From dusk to dawn is not sinners. He wants him to admit, dusk to dawn is where you got this storyline from. No, it isn't. He's probably seen From Dusk to Dawn. We liked it. It's about 20 of them. Only one was good. And it was the first one. And he was like, oh, this is just a whole different thing here. Now from dusk to dawn is this little bar that's on the side in Mexico. That's where you got it from. You stole it from us. No. He said, how could I make a blues movie about the blues, about Mississippi in the South, but make it interesting and make it pop? Oh, vampires. Make it a horror movie too. And incorporate the blues into it. Inspired by movies like Crossroads. Well, see, it's different texts. There were black tribe in Mexico too. That was another different tech. They had my text. Everything was tech. You know, at the end of it, it was my text, lie text, lion text, jag text. Like some had the Jaguar medals. You know, put up the Jaguar suits. Those were like the Aztecs. They had the Jaguars. They had the my text, the soul text. So they if you go to the Mexican Museum, they will show you. They have all their heritage there. You will learn about the Olmecs and everything. You learn about the black tribes that was in Mexico, the whole nine. So this guy is what you would call a mixed Latino, trying to speak for all Latino, which pisses off Latinos, right? Because they don't consider them. They say you're Chicano, or they make all kind of indignations to them, where we will call them mixed people. That's like having some mixed guy come out and try to say black culture and all this. Hey, man, we speaking for the black people, and this what's going on. They're going to be, hey, man, you mixed. So you get to choose what you want to do. You going to roll with the brothers today? I'm going to be white tomorrow. But you can't speak about the black environment. So this pisses off black people, Hispanics, once again, like with Kendrick Lamar's situation, they want to incorporate themselves into the story.
Vampire movie because we are owed our flowers. Also, Ryan, I saw that tamale story you put in the movie. Where's the fucking Latino extras? Come on, Ryan, you're so good at putting Latinos in your movie. What the fuck happened here? You don't put Latinos in the movie, and you steal from the biggest Latino vampire movie.
Hey, Latinos, come here for a second. Especially if you have my complexion. Come here for a second. This is what we're not going to do.
There's a fellow Latino on here that just doesn't seem to understand that the movie The Sinners is not about us.
We're gonna mail you your Latino card because you're one of us now.
Ryan Coogler put a lot of care and thought into historically and culturally representing the Mexican indigenous community in Black Panther, yet here you are, biting a hand that fed you by insulting him, claiming he stole from a white man's movie. By the way, a movie where you were portrayed as a villain in your own homeland. The secondhand embarrassment that I get when some Hispanics pathetically come on here and beg for opportunities from the Black community, whether it's thinking you're entitled to a performance spot at Kendrick Lamar's Juneteenth show or being represented in a Black movie, and then the Black community gives you those opportunities, and then what do? Backstab and disrespect like this dude, and that behavior tracks. Looking at those election results just a few months ago, it's not enough that Hispanics already benefit from the civil rights that the Black community fought for. Many of y'all still have the audacity to think you're entitled to have the Black community protesting on your behalf when so many of y'all voted to have our civil rights taken from us. Yet
So while she's cooking, oh yeah, I'm going to see Sinners again today just because of this. I'm going to spend my own money to watch Sinners again. I'll be like, we watching Sinners. Give me that. I'm buying a ticket for Sinners every day. Every day is in the theater, I'm buying a ticket. Now, she's telling it right. Now, she brought up a point. From Dusk to Dawn is a movie really controlled by the white studio. Guillermo del Toro, shouts out to him. But the studio controlled that. Quentin Tarantino and George Clooney were looked at as basically the heroes, and they were villains. Thieves and robbers. Harvey Keitel, all of the white folks that was in that movie, they were the heroes. All of the Hispanics were the evil people. They were evil. Not one of you were good. and you're trying to push that narrative saying we stole from a white man's movie. Who's pushing this narrative? Once again, whenever they fail at something, they come back at another area. They failed trying to get that. Variety came out and said something about it. Then Tom Cruise went and saw the movie and it shot back up some more because he trying to ride the wave because he got a movie coming out. So he want brothers to come out and support his movie. So he go out there and like, I'm going to go support Sinners, y'all. Y'all come see my movie, Mission Impossible. Sinners was great because he want the same support for Mission Impossible. You see, that's how it works. They know Ryan Coogler moves the needle. So he like, look, man, I'm going to support that brother because, shoot, I got a movie coming out, and I want the brothers to come see my movie because when the brothers come out to see the movies, the numbers go up, and they stay up. But y'all don't never invite people over, and y'all are not inviting. Y'all like to keep it all Hispanic. Speaking Spanish around the black folks so they don't understand what you're saying, being disrespectful. So y'all been doing a lot of that for years. But now you want to include them when black people have success. And this is not coming from real Latinos, real Hispanic people, period. Like dude said, real Hispanics don't even be saying Latino. Yeah, you want to get all of the benefits, right? Of everything we do. Now, this Latina girl had to take his head off.
Easiest fucking thing that you can do.
Hey, Latinos, come here for a second. Especially if you have my complexion. Come here for a second. This is what we're not going to do. We're not going to sit here and complain about not being represented in a story that we don't exist in. I'm sorry, but we're not there. Let's do a mini history lesson. Now, this over here, you can see where those red lines all are is like former Mexico. Notice how Mississippi is over there. There is the dominant immigrants in different places, and Mississippi, no Mexico. Let's fast forward to the time of this movie, 1930s. No Mexico. Oh, but we could have been there. We could have been there in like small, like, but why would we be thrown in there if we weren't there dominantly?
Exactly. In the 1930s, there were no Mexicans there. The Mexicans is in the red line areas. She's pointing to you, Doc, in historical reasons. There were no Mexican presence there. If they had one Mexican family somewhere scraggling around in Mississippi, trust me, they didn't want that. You see, in the 1910s, in the 1930s, let me give you a little bit of history lesson to this thing there. Yeah, let me give you a little bit of history lesson. Sino here, gonna let you know. because I did have world history. Thank God I had a great teacher in school that taught us about our Black history and the Great Migration coming from down south. My family's from Alabama. On my other side of the family, they're from Mississippi. So they come up here. I got some that went to Georgia, whatever, but the Great Migration happened in the 50s, and guys started to come to the Midwest to look for different pastures and things like that. So the 1930s, where the mob was here with Al Capone, you start seeing that all as well, as that is represented at the same time as here as when you had Chalky White, who was doing his thing down in another part of the town. Chicago was different. So they had one little section where the Blacks would live, whatever. That was like the hood, right? Where they brought them in to work in their factories. In the 1910s to the 1930s, right, changes happened because in the War of 1899, okay, we helped the Philippines in their war. And right after we helped the Philippines win their war, the United States decided, since we're here and they all messed up from the war, we might as well take over the Philippines. And they were like, what? Yeah, let's do it. So the United States turned on the Philippines, started to go to war with them in the 1900s. So now the Philippines have to go to war with the United States. And the Philippine soldiers, as small as they were taking out a number of the United States over there in the Philippines, right? And this is 1900. We're going to war with them because we helped them win a war. They lost a lot of people, and we decided to take over. So now, since we're already there, so we just started taking over, and the guys that were in charge was coming, and this is why they were saying, what is going on with these soldiers? Like, we hitting them with bullets, and they getting back up. The Philippine soldiers were getting hit, boom, 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 and jumping back up and running. And that's when Roger Mayweather made fun, saying that's what Manny Pacquiao is on. Manny Pacquiao is on that stuff. He on that dust. Yeah, that's what they were on. They had like some PCP over in the Philippines. They would have this powder, they would sniff it and go out charged. And they would be getting hit, boom, 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 still going. So the United States saw, wow, look at what we won, but look at what we did. We pushed them way back into the mountains. They took over the land, took away their religion, and now they had to be Catholic. So now the Catholic Church is their religion. We wiped out their religion, gave them our religion. So that happened in the 1900s, and most of the Filipinos came to the United States and was brought here and forced to do labor. Why? Slavery was abolished. So with slavery being abolished, they needed new slaves. So the Filipinos was here, and they had the Filipinos working, and most of them integrated with the townspeople that they were, and some of them had their own communities, but they were here to work, and they just wasn't as spirited and wasn't as connected as the Asian population. Cuban had a lot of people from China over there in the Cuban situation. They were helping build Cuba up, and then Cuba made a deal with the United States to get them out of Cuba. So from 1910 to 1930s, which this was in the 1930s, like 1933, I think. So in the 1910 to 1930, there was a great migrational period where the Cuban Chinese people were brought to the United States because it was quicker to get them from Cuba to move them through Florida to get them over to Mississippi, the Mississippi Delta. And when you took them from Cuba to the Mississippi Deltas, that's why they were called coolies. That's what the nickname for them were, the coolies. They had those big fan hats, those straw hats, and they had them Chinese suits. You ever see the movie The Last Dragon? You ever see the movie The Last Dragon, right? We black, so we've seen The Last Dragon, right? And what happened when he comes back to deliver the pizza? What happens when he tries to deliver the pizza, saying the master ordered the pizza, right? And he came in there and they let him in and they said, hey, you ain't the guy that came here earlier dressed as a coolie. And he said, oh no, we just all look alike. My man, soul brother. But you see, dressed as a coolie. You want the one, because remember, first time he came there, Bruce Leroy came dressed as a coolie. Wearing that big straw hat with the outfit on. So, coolies were the nickname for the Chinese that came over from Cuba. From Cuba. So now, they call them coolies. And the United States used them to pick cotton in the fields because they would work for cheap, because the blacks wasn't working for cheap no more. They was like, slavery is abolished, so you got to pay the brothers to do the work. They didn't want to do it, so they wanted to get cheaper labor, so they got the Chinese to do it for less. So you got to understand, this is world history. This is the real world history they're not going to teach you in your school. So if you know that, that's how the Chinese got here. And they were in the Mississippi Delta. That's why they're in the movie Sinners, represented, because they were down in the deltas.
She's a journalist, and I'm just going to play the clip right here.
The Mississippi Delta, home of the blues, endless fields of green, and a land cultivated by the hands of slaves. But in between, for more than 100 years, the Delta has also been home to a small but influential Chinese community.
This is a store that I grew up in many, many years ago. We lived in the back of the store before we bought another house.
Like most of the Delta Chinese of the time, Sally's parents opened and ran a grocery store. The Chinese originally came here to work in the cotton fields. With the end of slavery, plantation owners could no longer depend on the free labor of slaves. So they looked to the Chinese, who were cheap, disposable, and politically voiceless.
I mean, it was a phenomenon. When I think about how the Chinese came and just settled in the Delta from Memphis to Vicksburg, I mean, just look at it. It really filled a particular need.
I mean, let's just read these comments real quick. Someone on Reddit said, I liked it. Granted, I'm always been meaning to learn more about Asian American history, but I thought they did a good job of portraying the fact that they were first generation, at least, and probably brought families that were there a lot. And then someone said, yo, I heard some Toisan dialect. So I guess, yeah, for all you Toisan people out there, which you guys know, Taishan, it's similar to Cantonese, but it is a little bit different. But that was a lot of the first Chinese laborers that had come to America. Even over in the gold rush on the West Coast, a lot of them were Toisan. A lot of the Chinese who went to the Caribbean were Hakka. So, you know, there's just all these different sects of Chinese that obviously it's harder to tell now because people are just more kind of buying into one or two dialects, which would be
Cantonese and Mandarin.
In the South, Cantonese, but obviously mainly Mandarin now. All right.
Oh, yeah. See? Now, he's basically just explaining to you everything that was going on that I just spoke about. Now, what he's saying is that Toisan, which was the dialect in which they used at that time, Ryan Coogler put that in there to make sure that they used the dialect that they used at that time. It was important. And as you see, through the Asian community, they said, man, their Chinese wasn't even right. No, it was Toisan because that's what they spoke when they came over to the lands. That was one of the original dialects that they spoke. That's why somebody said, oh, no, I recognize some Toisan in there. So as you can see, this conversation is taking place in Asian communities. So what the Latinos are crying for? Go make your own centers and put it out. Right, y'all had Blue Beetle. You ain't hear nobody black saying, man, why wasn't I in Blue Beetle, man? We buy them damn fish tacos y'all got. Y'all come in our hood, we in that little Latino store. We go up there, support y'all businesses. Y'all ain't put us in Blue Beetle, mom. You got Cobra Kai up in there, nigga. Where's our kid at? Wait, right. Where we at in Narco season 17? Yeah. We was around there in Narcos. What does Sinners have to do with Latinos? Nothing. Nothing. They're trying to claim that he stole the story from Dusk to Dawn and just remade From Dusk to Dawn. No, this movie is not even close to From Dusk to Dawn. They have some similarities, but no. Well, From Dusk to Dawn, the characters, let's look at the characters, right? It was George Clooney and his brother. They were criminals on the run, okay? Criminals on the run. They were brothers. So here you got two brothers, same thing, right? So they are brothers, right? Michael B. Jordan is playing two roles. It was supposed to be him and Jonathan Majors, but it's Michael B. Jordan playing both parts. They're not on the run. They did a heist. If you didn't see the movie, I'm sorry. Spoiler coming. They robbed both mobs and made it look like each one is fighting each other. They all think, Al Capone think the Irish mob did it, or the Italians and the Irish in Chicago are fighting each other, and they thinking, okay, they by the time they figured out they both got hit by somebody else, they already left with all the money. So they going back to Mississippi. They ain't going back to Chicago because they already know it's hot. So they just not going back there. But nobody's looking for them yet. Nobody's figured out what they did or nothing. So they just like, let's go back to Mississippi, start us a juke joint. Completely different from Dusk to Dawn. They were just on the road. They supposed to meet up with a connect that was going to be there at the bar that was going to take them to they going to Mexico, get over the border because they did some crimes, so they need to get over the border. And he's like, hey, this is the first bar when you get over there, whatever. He had never been in there. He just heard about the place. And, what happens there, happens. But we love it because of the characters, Sex Machine with the guns, all of the movie is good. We love From Dusk to Dawn. Salma Hayek and the whole snake scene and all of that. That was cool, but this ain't that. Sinners isn't this at all. Well, we got to make sure we're doing things the right way. when we talking about putting a movie together, he said, right. And they just want any part of success. Now, if Sinners didn't have any success, will we be hearing this guy saying anything about it? No. The white Latino, that we call him, the white Latino man. Will we have the white Latino man telling us what is what? And other Latinos came out to smash him because they went to see the movie anyway. Because like I said, real Latinos don't even think like that. Look, she's showing you right here, and I want y'all to see it clearly. Let me show you what this Mexican girl did. She did her homework. It says the Mexican reparation, which was the reparation, the deportation and expulsion of Mexican and Mexican Americans from the United States during the Great Depression between 1929 and 1939, estimated that they were deported and expelled from like 100,000 to 2 million. So they were kicking Mexicans out in 1929 to 1939 during the Great Depression because they blamed Mexicans for everything. So y'all were getting kicked out of the United States. And it's similar to now. You didn't support blacks when they were fighting for their rights, but you wanted blacks to fight for you when you guys were trying to take the Alamo. You wanted blacks to fight for everything y'all do, but when it was time for blacks to fight for something, y'all said, "I agree with y'all, but we ain't gonna fight." Then we get it. Then y'all want to get all the benefits. Civil rights. That's right. Yes, that's right. Saying we got the same civil rights. Thank you, black folks, for fighting and dying for that. Man, woo, I'm glad y'all went through that. Now we finna come in and that worked for all of us. Thank you. Now we're gonna take it from here.
Different sad history was going on, and we were getting booted at the time. But what about Chinese settlers? Why were there Asian people in this movie? Because of historical context. It's almost like this director, Ryan Coogler, a black man, made a movie about black struggle in the 1930s, sharecroppers. We weren't there. You know how inspiring it was to watch this movie do so well for Ryan Coogler to get the deal that he got, to be doing so well, like at the box office. I bought tickets for IMAX to see this. I never go see IMAX. Like, no, I'm not going to expect it from him because it's not asked of us when we make movies. And I had forgotten that I had already blocked this man before. What is his name? Matthew Torres, who has, first of all, forgotten about Black Latinos. I believe he was the one that talked about Miles Morales not being Latino because he was Black, and coming for indigenous communities as well. And you know what? It took me one Google search, because his main thing is that Ryan Coogler stole from Dusk Till Dawn and didn't credit any influence for it. And it took me one Google search to see that he called Robert Rodriguez one of his big heroes. And he talks about Dusk Till Dawn. So get the fuck out of my face. Maybe before we come for a Black director who has worked his ass off, who's incredibly talented, and has gotten to a point where he can use Hollywood money to make stories about his people for his people, which is incredible. Maybe we need to start looking inward at our own communities and how representation is a little fucked there, you know? Maybe we should look at what he has done and be inspired that it is something that is achievable. Call me crazy, but should we not be excited, maybe congratulating and being so happy for Ryan Coogler and what he has accomplished? Should we not be going out to support these movies and Asian movies and Native American movies and Palestinian movies and more Latino movies and making sure that everyone is supported so that we can see ourselves on more screens instead of fighting? Do not understand. Trying to tear another group down instead of being inspired by that group and wanting the same for ourselves, wanting more artists who tell our stories for us.
There's a fellow Latino on here that just doesn't seem to understand that the movie The Sinners is not about us. It is the hardships that African Americans went through. Yes, it's portrayed in a fantasy style, but those situations were real. Jim Crow, the segregation between the whites and the blacks, the issues with Asian Americans running shops. There's so many layers to this movie, and it was beautifully portrayed through song and dance. If you want to make a movie about Latinos, go direct your own movie and make it about us. That's not hard. Stop pressuring others to represent your story. Do it yourself. Also, I think that movie was so beautifully done. I can't wait to go see it again. I've been telling everybody about it. Well done. The actors, the actresses.
But I will say that Ryan Coogler needs to firmly address that he was inspired by a Latin American vampire movie because we are owed our flowers. Also, Ryan, I saw that tamale story you put in the movie. Where's the fucking Latino extras? Come on, Ryan, you're so good at putting Latinos in your movie. What the fuck happened here? You don't put Latinos in the movie and you steal from the biggest Latino vampire movie? Come on, man, that's a bad look.
So I've seen a couple people already beat this horse, but I want to come at it from a different angle in regards to the complaint that Sinners didn't include any Latino characters. And I get where that instinct comes from. People want to see broader representation, and that's a good thing. But in this case, the absence of Latinos actually makes historical sense. And you can fact check me on this if I'm wrong. This story takes place in the Jim Crow era Mississippi Delta in 1932, a place where the population was overwhelmingly black and white, with smaller but very real Asian and indigenous communities. Latino communities, particularly Mexican laborers, just weren't present in large numbers in that specific region at that time. Most of the Latino population in the US during that period centered in the Southwest, Texas, California, Arizona, not Mississippi. Meanwhile, everything else the film shows, grounded in truth. Black communities were the backbone of the Delta, culturally, economically, spiritually. After slavery, Black communities didn't just work the land, they built rich cultural lives in spite of the oppression. You feel that in the music, the juke joint, the way people gather and grieve and fight to hold on to joy. That's not Hollywood fantasy. That's history. Same with the Asian characters. After emancipation, plantation owners brought Asian laborers into the Delta as a replacement workforce. Many stayed, opened grocery stores, and often served Black customers when white stores refused. That's a documented part of Mississippi history most people never hear about. The Choctaw presence, also accurate. The Choctaw are indigenous to Mississippi. Even after the Indian Removal Act forced most west, some remained, resisted, or returned. By the early 1900s, there were still Choctaw communities in the state. The film nods to that presence without turning it into a history lesson, and I respect that. And yes, the white characters reflect the social structure too. Some enforcing the system, others living in those gray areas. That mix is also part of what made the Delta such a complex, volatile place. So no, this isn't a case of forgetting anyone. This is a case of being honest about who was actually there. And what I do respect is that Sinners didn't try to shoehorn in a character just to tick a box. It stayed true to the region, the era, and the communities who lived and died in that landscape. This is not a lack of representation. It's actually a commitment to authenticity.
That one guy making those ridiculous comments, ridiculous videos, does not represent the Latino community. I wanted to make a video about this just because I loved Sinners with all my heart. And I know, like, bringing attention to this guy, whatever, but I'm not going to say his name. Just, you guys can look it up. You guys know who it is. But yeah, it did make me upset that some guy, you know, with a large following and a large Latino following, is saying all this stuff like that Sinners needed to represent Latinos for whatever reason. Like, why? I think there is a time and a place to demand representation in certain projects. This isn't the one.
Now, you saying right now, people are like, whoa, this is crazy. So when a conservative mixed white daddy and a Hispanic mama, Latino son comes out, gets a conservative following for saying controversial things, why doesn't he go after Hollywood where they don't put Latinos in their movie? I don't see you going on the Sex in the City show and saying why Sex in the City ain't putting no Mexicans in there. They do that to draw conflict between blacks and Latinos. They want to continue a conflict instead of bringing together. You see, when this man put a real Mexican into his film, do you know he went personally to Mexico and got this actor and said, you're going to be Namor? Hollywood they didn't know who the hell he was. And Ryan Coogler says, he is our Namor. That's the guy. And gave him their identity. He gave Mexicans their true identity. Never before have they had their whole true identity displayed in a $200 million film. He allowed that to happen within a Marvel MCU movie. Where he talked down on that language that they were captured with. Spanish is not Mexican language. You were conquered by Maximilian in Spain. That's why you speak Spanish. It's not your dialect. And if you watch Wakanda Forever, they didn't come from that culture. They weren't conquered. So they never spoke Spanish. They spoke in the Mitec or the Tech, whatever dialect that's called. They spoke that language. And they spoke that language during the film. They did not speak Spanish. And a black man brought that to light. And for you, whoever that conservative Hispanic man is crying about, saying, Ryan Coogler, why didn't you do this? And we didn't have any representation in this film. That man could not have to put a Mexican in no movie for the rest of his life because he did that for you. Something the white man has never done for you. You don't call him out. How about this? Let's bring it even more home. How about this? Hispanics who believe that guy and want to roll with that guy. Why didn't you say nothing when Hollywood, when they made the movie Green Card and didn't have no damn Mexicans? Green Card. About an immigrant who needs to get married before he goes back to another country, played by two white people. Green card. The motion picture. Huh? You ain't said one word. Every Mexican should have been offended. Oh, absolutely. We didn't see any outrage. Oh, we won't stop there. What were the Mexicans who complained about Ryan Coogler and Sinners talking about the movie called The Mexican with two white guys? Well, two white people, Julia Roberts, Brad Pitt, The Mexican. Brad Pitt is now the Mexican. Now, I'm a movie watcher, so I already know it. Selective outrage. But when a black person do something, they don't do nothing but just in real life. They're taught to be submissive to white Americans. They kiss ass to these white conservative men, but yet they don't show up to do anything for their rights. They're more subservient. And they look at black folks as weird. You guys are the problem. But look, they know not to speak up. Believe me, real Mexicans was pissed when they see that. Real Mexicans ain't going to see that. Real Mexicans is not going to walk into that movie to see the Mexican. They not going to the theater to watch Green Card. How many of y'all who are Latino even heard of Green Card? They basically took a Mexican story or a Mexican Hispanic situation and put it in a white guy sense, and it's like, oh. Meanwhile, they kicking you out the country right now, putting you in cages, splitting you up from your people. Black folks ain't doing that to you. The people ass you kiss is doing that to you. They put you in cages, putting your kids in there, experimenting on them, doing everything they want to do, selling organs from your kids to other people, giving you money for it. Is it blacks? Or is it whites? It's black, it's white, it's stuck with you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're mad because Sinners is successful. That's why they mad. This type of success wasn't supposed to happen. Now everybody losing their mind. And a white person can't say what he said, so they get a Hispanic white. to come out and say what they want to say. Yep, they stole this thing. This movie is just a ripoff of From Dusk to Dawn when we had George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino. I love that movie. Selma Hayek with a snake and her lust for white men. Oh, I love it. Where your Selma Hayek at now? Married to a billionaire white man. And when black folks pointed that out, what did she do? She made a movie where she was the wife of Samuel L. Jackson. That's right. Black Snake Moan, I watch that movie every time it come on. Just to see Samuel L. Jackson with that white woman on that chain. Just for that part alone, my ticket was sold. Mm-hmm. They want to get people riled up. Because at the end of the day, that's what moves them. They too busy having everybody fighting each other. Oh yeah, they're real Hispanic women out here. Cena had the best. Had the best of them. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know that. No, Salma Hayek's name really is Salma Jimenez. Hayek is just another middle name of hers. Her name is Salma Vagarma Hayek Panut Jimenez. So her stage name is Salma Hayek. So she went under Selma Hayek. Her father, Sami Hayek Dominguez, is from Lebanese descent. Yep, from Lebanon. And they settled in Mexico. That's why Salma Hayek don't really look like some of the Mexican women that you've seen prior. She looks a little bit different. She's from Veracruz, Mexico, but her daddy is from Lebanon. Right, that's why Mexicans, majority of them, Catholic is their number one religion. The Catholic world tried to basically go and take over the world. The Holy Crusades. All right, they went to China and lost. They lost that war. So they said, oh yeah, we done here. Japan, they lost. That is correct. Well, large Veracruz is where a lot of the Black Mexicans are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been very educational. I know. They're going to make sure this video didn't go out a lot of places because they figure it's going to be too divisive. But it wasn't. It was very educational. A lot of people here learned some information they never heard before in their life. And they're going to be wondering like, man, I went to school and I never learned any of this. Why would they teach us this? Because it ain't the history they want you to know. They'll get there. You know how they say they slow, but they'll figure it out. Well, we're gonna, watch it and see what goes on. Like, hell, I'm not Mexican, but I watch Canelo Alvarez fight. If he couldn't fight, we wouldn't be watching the fight. When he fight Terrence Crawford, then we gonna see. For sure. So anyway, I'm gonna get up out of here. Love, peace, and hair grease. We're gonna chat later. Thank y'all for tuning in. Don't forget to like and go to my Patreon, which is Carcino for Life. And I'm out. Hi, I'm Carcino. Oh, let's talk about it. No one knows